He that's without sin, let him cast the first stone. He that is without sin, let him cast the first stone. He that's without sin among you, let him cast the first stone. When someone is going against the will of God, and a person comes and corrects them and tells them, you're going against the will of God, you're sinning. One of the things you hear someone say is, he that's without sin, cast the first stone. And they'll say that, which basically is saying, neither one of us is without sin. So you can't throw a stone at me because you yourself should be throwing a stone at yourself also. So you'll hear, he that's without sin, let him cast the first stone. Right? Another thing that has to be mentioned, when we hear he that's without sin, let him cast the first stone, or he that's without sin, let him cast the first stone at her. Why is that important? Shalom, shalom. Ani Yehuda Hayorah. If this is the first time that you're coming to my channel, I said I need Yehuda Hayorah, which means I am Judah the Shooter. Ladies and gents, definitely like, share, and subscribe, and make sure that you hit the bell for notifications. If you hit the bell for notifications, that means you will get notifications every time that I post a video, ladies and gents. So, the last video I put out, as you see here, adultery in his heart, dealing with Matthew 5, verse 28, and you see the question mark, a mistranslation. So, that being said, today we have a new topic, and we'll be going over the topic of casting the first stone. So, ask yourself this. Have someone ever said this to you? Have you heard this before? And what does it mean to you? Now that you've done that, maybe you don't know. But the good news is, by the end of this video, you will know exactly what that term means, what that phrase means, and what is the actual context of it. Now, that being said, ladies and gents, we'll be going into the King James Version of the Bible. And there's a few things I want to go over first before going into this topic. All right. So hopefully you all are following along. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Okay. So before we do, something I want to point out first. Romans chapter 15, verse 4 says this here. It says, for whatsoever things were is past tense, back then. All right. So whatsoever things that were written aforetime, meaning back then, of course, it says were written for our learning. So now we see he's speaking in the past tense. Remember, during the time that the Apostle Paul wrote this, there was no such thing as what you and I call a New Testament. So as he's writing this letter, he's teaching from what we call the Torah and the Tanakh, or what you would call today the Old Testament. And he said, whatsoever things are written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. But notice he's speaking about what? The scriptures, which were things that were written aforetime. And these scriptures, of course, were written so that we can learn from it. Now, before we go over the topic about casting the stone, he that's without sin among you, let him cast the first stone. That's the saying that you all say. But it's a few things we have to understand before dealing with that topic. Let's go to Exodus. Exodus dealing with the 10 commandments. All right, and we're going to look first at verse 16 really quick. The 10 commandments. First thing it says, thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. Do not do that. And that's going to be very important later. So we see that you should not bear false witness. When you are bearing, that means you're carrying something, meaning a tale. So in other words, do not lie on your neighbor. Don't lie on them. All right? Don't lie on them. Don't say that you witnessed something and it's a lie. Yeah, I saw him do this. I saw him do that. And it'd be a lie. Verse 14, remember, we have the 7th commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery. And this is going to be important later, because there's a story in the Bible where a woman was guilty for committing adultery. This is going to be very important to understand. Now, ladies and gents, there is another law in the Bible in Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1. It says, if a soul sins, meaning if a person sins, and hear the voice of swearing, and it is what? And is a witness, because remember, you can't be a false witness, whether he have seen or known of it. If he do not utter it, meaning say something, then he shall bear his iniquity. It would be as if he done it himself. See something, say something. It's basically what that's being said there, guys. That is a law. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to Sefer Devarim, or the book of Deuteronomy, and we're going to go to chapter 19. And I want to hit verse 15. This is what it says. Here we go. It says, one witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or of any sin. If any sin that he sinned at the mouth of how many witnesses? 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses. That means what? Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. It says, shall the matter be established. Shall the matter be established. So guess what, guys? That means out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. Right? Now, hold on one second, I got a text message. 1 second, guys. Okay, so that being said, guys, don't that sounds like 2 Corinthians? Is it 2 Corinthians 13? I want to say 2 Corinthians. Oh, sorry about that. Chapter 13. It says, "This is the 3rd time I'm coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses should every word be established." Now look, going back, let's read that again. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin. And any sin that he sinned at the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established, meaning the situation. If a false witness, remember the 9th commandment is don't bear false witness against your neighbor. So it says, if a false witness rise up against any man to do what, guys? To testify against him. Yeah, I saw him do that. I saw this. I saw that. That which is what? Wrong. It says, then both of the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and the judges. So this is court. Got a court date. Somebody bear a false witness and they gave a false testimony, a false testament against somebody, and they lied. Now they got to go to court. It says, which shall be in those days, and the judges shall make a what? A diligent inquisition. And behold, meaning check this out. It says, if the witness be a false witness and have testified falsely against his brother, then shall you do unto him as he thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put away evil from among you. So that lets you know right there. That was literally a judgment. If you lied, whatever you thought to have done to that person, it's gonna get done to you, since you want to lie and be a false witness. All right. So it says, verse 19 again. Then shall you do unto him as he thought to have done unto who? His brother. So shall you put away evil from among you, and those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you. Meaning, dang, I see what they just did to such and such over there. I better not be a false witness. I better not go and lie at all. I better not give a false testimony so this person can die, because that may happen to myself. So it says, and your eye shall not pity, don't have no mercy, but life shall go for life. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So literally, the same judgment that you would have gotten, same false judgment you would have gotten, would have been done to you. Would have been done to you. So obviously this would have literally frightened righteous people back in the day, guys. Would have frightened them. Now, let's grab one more. Let's go to Deuteronomy, Sefer Devarim, Deuteronomy chapter 17. We're going to go to verse 4. All right, it says, so Deuteronomy chapter 17 and verse 4, this is what it says. It says, and it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, and inquired diligently, and behold, it be true, and the certain thing that such abomination is wrought in Israel. Check this out. Then shall you bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that what? Wicked thing unto the gates, unto your gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die. So that was literally a death sentence. All right. Again, it says, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of who? 1 witness, he shall not be put to death. So here it is. Somebody told this person did this wicked thing over here. We got 2 or 3 witnesses. That's proof right there. They get put to death. But if one person came and made the claims, then can't do it. This is important though. Let's check it. Let's go back. It says the hands of the witnesses shall be what? First upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people. So shall you put away evil from among you. That means what, guys? That literally, when the person committed a sin that was worthy for them to die, they were stoned with stones until they died. But remember, whoever witnessed it, they was the first to put the person to death. And how did they put him to death? By the way of stones. So that means that whoever witnessed the crimes were the first ones to pick the stone up to cast it. This is going to be very important, ladies and gents. Now check this out. Let's go to Leviticus real quick. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10. This is what it says. And the man that committeth adultery, watch this, with another man's wife. Remember, the biblical adultery is when you have sex with another man's wife. It says, even he that committed adultery, watch this, with his neighbor's wife. With his neighbor's wife. The adulterer, which would have been that man, and the adulteress, which would have been that other man's wife, shall surely be put to death. We know that they would have been put to death by stones. They would have been stoned to death, ladies and gents. Remember, you had to have 2 or 3 witnesses to put someone to death back then. And whoever witnessed it was the first ones to put the person to death. And afterwards, everybody else. Remember, how was they put to death? Stones. They were stoned with stones till they died. So you have a crime like adultery, what is obviously against the Most High. Now, ladies and gents, I don't know if you know, but some time ago I did a video. This one here, it was over a year ago. It's right here, and that video is called "What is Adultery?" What is adultery? And I did this video over a year ago. And also, for those of you who have purchased my book from ProPolyBook.com, it's Biblical Polygyny is Sin. If you've purchased this book, then if you go to the second chapter on page 49, I have a chapter called "What is Adultery?" and it's a lot better than the video. All right, it's called "What is Adultery?" I have a chapter called "What is Fornication?" What is adultery? I have a chapter called "What is Lust?" Lawful lust versus unlawful lust, etc. This book is very, very good to get. All right. And this is volume 1. Volume 2 was completed before I released 1. And I may release volume 2 maybe around November of 2024, this year. Now, so make sure you watch that video. Make sure you get the book. It's Biblical Polygyny is Sin. You can purchase it from ProPolyBook.com. And if you do, the book will more than likely get to you between 14 to 16 days, ladies and gents. All right. So, that being said, let's go back. Okay, here we go. So, once again, youtube.com/Judah the Shooter. Now, the person who was the witnesses, the hands of the witnesses, remember, they were the first to cast that stone. But you had to have 2 or 3 witnesses. 2 or 3 witnesses. If you committed a crime like adultery, both of you all had to die. So look, remember Leviticus chapter 20 verse 10 says this: "And the man that committed adultery with another man's wife, even he that committed adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer," which would have been that man, "and the adulteress," so not just the woman, but the adulterer and the adulteress, meaning both of them, the man and the woman, they were put to death. The man and the woman. Let's get another example. Matter of fact, Deuteronomy 22. All right, Deuteronomy 22 and verse 23, it says, all right, it says, I'm gonna start in 22. "If a man be found lying with a woman," but not just any woman, this woman was what? Married to a husband. "Then they shall both of them die." Both, guys. The key word is both, not just the woman. Both of them had to die. Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. "So shall you put away evil from Israel." All right. So both of them had to die. It says, "The damsel that is a virgin be betrothed," meaning engaged to a husband, "and a man found her in the city and lie with her." So it means she's engaged. "Then shall you bring them" what? Both. Not just one person, but both out into the gate of that city. "And you shall stone them with stones that they die." Remember, according to the law, the people who witnessed it, you had to have 2 or 3 witnesses. The people who witnessed it were the first ones to cast a stone. They were the first ones. When one broke that law, the person who witnessed it, they were the first to cast a stone. And everybody else would throw stones after the fact. And why do you think that is? Because if you were a false witness back then and you would have threw a stone at a person that you lied and said they committed adultery, not only you broke the 9th commandment, but now you broke the commandment of "Thou shalt not kill." So that's more than one commandment that's being broken. What about "Love your neighbors yourself"? Broke that one too, technically. So there are a number of commandments that are being broken simply because you lied. Because you lied, and someone was put to death because of your false testimony. Let's go back. Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 24. "Then shall you bring them both out into the gate of that city, and you shall stone them with stones that they die." The damsel, let's find out why she had to die. Because she cried not. Because she cried not. that means she wanted it. Because she didn't cry out. She didn't tell nobody. That means she wanted it. It wasn't rape. It was consensual. It says, being in the city, and the man. Why'd the man have to die? Because he had humbled his neighbor's wife. So even though even though she was betrothed, engaged, that was still his neighbor's wife. Even though they were engaged, even though she was promised to another man, that's still another man's wife. So yes, when you engage, you another man's wife. It says, so shall you put away evil from among you. Got that? It says, but if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her shall die. Why? Because he raped her. But unto the damsel you shall do what? Nothing. Now why is that? Because it tells us there is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. Why? Because she was raped. He forced her. For as when a man rise against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so in this matter. So it is to be treated as if a person killed another man. A life for a life. Got that, guys? So where are we going with this? If a person was guilty of adultery, which is sleeping with another man's wife, the woman was married to another man. That means the adulterer and the adulteress, both of them had to die. Both of them had to be put to death by the way of stones. But you had to have 2 or 3 witnesses. And the people who witnessed it, according to the law, were commanded to throw the stones or cast the stones first. Nobody else could throw the stones. Only the people who witnessed it, had to be 2 or 3, only they could throw the stones first. And then everybody else could follow through after the fact. Why? Because they're going off the testimony of someone else. Could you imagine back then you were a false witness or someone you knew? And you knew that someone that you were close to lied, they got lied on. And then you saw people lying on them and they threw the stone and then everybody else killed the person you knew and loved back then, and you knew that was a lie. But of course, you got 2 or 3 false witnesses who broke the 9th commandment, and according to the law, they get stoned. Nothing you can physically do about that. Why? Because there's 2 or 3 witnesses. False witnesses, witnesses falsely. That means you would have gotten everybody responsible for shedding innocent blood. Now that being said, guys, now that we understand the law that both of them had to die, let's go to the book of John chapter 8. Because remember, you hear things like, you're not supposed to be doing that. That's against God. Oh, well, he that's without sin cast the first stone. He that's without sin among you, let him cast the first stone. Which one of those are correct? He that's without sin, let him cast the first stone. Or he that's without sin among you, let him cast the first stone. Which one of those are correct? Say it out loud. He that's without sin, let him cast the first stone. Or he that's without sin among you, let him cast the first stone. Which one of those are correct? You know the answer? Neither. Neither one of those answers are correct. Let's go ahead and read it, and let's get the context, ladies and gents. So we're going to St. John chapter 8 quick, and we're going to hit verse 7 first. It says, so when they continue asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him cast a stone at her. So that's what he said. Why is that? Why is that, ladies and gents? What was going on in the story? Because people take this passage out of context because you're correcting them because they're sinning. Because you're correcting them because they're going against God. What is sin according to the Bible anyway? Before we continue. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4 says this, guys. It says, whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. It says they transgresseth also the law. Transgressive means to rebel. It says, for sin is the transgression of the law. Sin is the transgression of the law, ladies and gentlemen. This is very important. Let me see something. Leviticus chapter 16. Let me see something real quick, guys. Leviticus 16:16. And he shall make an atonement, meaning a sacrifice for the holy place, because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel and because of their transgressions. All right, so because of their transgressions, ladies and gentlemen, we have sins, right? And then we have transgressions. All right. A revolt, rebellion, sin, transgression, trespass. So when you look at transgressions, I'll read it slow. Umifish ahem. I'm sorry. Umifish ahem is the word here. All right. So that being said, going back to Leviticus, 1 John 3 and 4. Whosoever committed sins transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression, meaning the rebellion of the law. It means to rebel against God's law. It means to go against God's law. Sin means to go against or rebel or to break God's law. It means to revolt against his law, rebel against his law, disregard his law and don't do it. You are breaking his commandments. Keep that in mind. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to St. John. And this time we're going to go to chapter 8 and we're going to start in 1. Notice it says right here, the adulterous woman. The adulterous woman. It says, Jesus or Yeshua went unto the Mount of Olives. And early in the morning, he came again into the temple. So now we see the context. He's in the temple. And all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. Wow. Some people say, oh, he was being disruptive. It says, and the scribes and Pharisees brought him unto a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, now think about something. You got the scribes and the Pharisees. The scribes were people who were very learned, and they wrote things down. They kept record of things. All right, you didn't get a position like that unless, A, you were a great writer, you were very, very attentive to listening, and you had that as a skill, and you were able to write down to keep record of what is happening and what is going on. Sort of like the people in the court, when people are talking, they writing everything down, everything you say and do. So you had the scribes that came, but then it said the Pharisees. The Pharisees were separatists. All right. That's basically what it derives from. It actually means in Hebrew, Parash. So it says, so that you can understand what's going on here. You got the scribes who writing everything down and recording everything. So you better watch what you say. And then you got the Pharisees. All right. And these group of Pharisees obviously did not believe that Christ was the Messiah whom the Old Testament was pointing to. So they said they brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they set her in the midst, meaning in the middle of them, they said unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. So that means they literally snatched her up. She got caught in the very act. It says, now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what says thou? Now wait a minute. Hold on. Let's make something clear here. Deuteronomy 22, verse 22 says this. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. Both the man that lay with the woman and the woman. Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 10 clearly said here, and the man that committed adultery with who? With another man's wife. Even he that committed adultery with who? His neighbor's wife. The adulterer and the adulteress, they both had to die. But right here in John chapter 8, we got a problem. Because it says here, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what says you? Such shall be stoned. So let me get this straight. Y'all brought the woman forth, but you didn't bring the man. Now, you want to see what Yeshua is going to say to see if he's going to condemn the woman to death. The people who are accusing her of adultery, says she got caught in the very act. You brought the woman forth, but you didn't bring the man. Where is he? For all we know, you could have been the person. For all we know, not only you could have been the person, but the people with you. But let's read the story to see what's actually going on, though, guys. So it says, now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. No, Moses said both should be stoned. But now they're asking Christ what he say. This they said, what? Tempting him. So that let you know they were scrutinizing him, trying to test him. They want to catch him slipping. But why did they want to do this to catch him slipping? That they might have to accuse him. In other words, bring him up on charges. That lets you know that these scribes and Pharisees didn't rock with Christ. They were trying to catch him up. Now, we know Christ knew and understood the Torah. It was created by his Father. You're not going to catch him up at all. Where is the woman? And if y'all caught her in the very act, why wasn't she stoned to death? Why was it the people who witnessed it, i.e. you all, throwing the stones at her? Christ didn't witness it. Shouldn't y'all been keeping the law? Why did she even make it to me in the first place? She should have been getting a brick shower according to the law. But they want to catch Christ up. They want to scrutinize him so that they can accuse him. So it says, but Jesus stooped down with his finger, wrote on the ground. He stooped down and wrote on the ground, guys. It says, as though he heard them not. So here it is, they're trying to catch Christ up, and Christ stoops down on the ground with his finger and he begins to write. Now the text never says what Christ wrote, although throughout the years we've had theories, such as maybe he wrote down what they did, maybe he exposed that y'all lying, maybe he wrote down something that would have convicted them in their conscience. Now remember, these are the scribes and Pharisees. These are your top guys, the separatists, the scribes who writing everything down, the top guys. And Christ just wrote down whatever he wrote, and he must have cut into them with that. So look, let's go back. It says, verse 6 again, this they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Yeshua, Jesus, stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground. Wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, like still asking him, now Moses in the law commanded such to be sown. What should you say? Tempting him. They still asking him. He lifted up himself and said unto them, he that's without sin among you, let him cast the first stone at her. You know one thing that lets us know? That, number one, according to Deuteronomy 17, verse 4 through 7, one who witnessed such crimes had to have 2 or 3 witnesses, which we see that there 2 or 3 witnesses are there. But the person who did it had to throw the stone first. Had to throw the stone first. But notice he said, let him cast the first stone at her. Christ knew and understood that by law they couldn't have put her to death. Why? Because the man and the woman had to be present. The woman was the only one that was present. So since y'all trying to come to me and I can read you thoughts, you little hypocrites, y'all want me to tell you to condemn this woman to death? Meanwhile, the man and the woman is not here. And if y'all the witnesses, if you say you caught in the very act, okay, go ahead, throw the stone at her then. Do what the law say. You want to have Christ to be accused of teaching against the law. You weren't going to have that. You want to have him as a false witness. You weren't gonna have that. The man wasn't there, for all we know. But it said, he that's without sin among you, let him cast the first stone in her. That lets you know that whoever was able to cast that first stone in her, you bet not have been ever guilty of ever being accused of that at all. The only reason why you ain't even dead is because you didn't have 2 or 3 witnesses. Maybe one person said something, but you couldn't have got put to death unless 2 or 3 witnesses knew about it, witnessed it. So that lets you know that more than likely, every last one of them, more than likely, have to been accused of adultery at some point in their life. And that's more than likely probably what he might have wrote in the sand. Oh yeah, you trying to get this one put to death, but just last week on such and such date, you was with such and such wife. Oh, and you tried to do the same thing, Mr. Scribe. Write this down. He, the one who you kick it with, did that. Oh, and matter of fact, just last year, you just did the same thing too. Did you write that down, Mr. Scribe? I know what you did last summer. So there was many reasons on why that woman couldn't have been put to death. It was wicked all the way around. And they were trying to bring Christ into their wickedness and try to tempt him that they can accuse him. So verse 7. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him cast a stone at her. Now remember, let him first cast a stone at her. Remember, the people who had to cast a stone, look, in case y'all forgot, Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy 17. At the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, shall he that's worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, but at the mouth of one witness, he shall not be put to death. All right. So maybe they have been accused in the past, but they only had one witness, so they couldn't be put to death. But you had to have 2 or 3 witnesses. But remember, it said the hands of the witness. All right. The hands of the witness shall be first upon him to put him to death. And after is the hands of all the people. Now remember, Christ said here, he that's without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. Christ knew by law you couldn't do that no way. Why? Because you didn't have the man there. Now y'all trying to accuse me of teaching against the law, but yet y'all breaking the law, and yet y'all being disingenuous in what y'all doing. Think about that, guys. It says, and again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. He wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being what? Convicted by their own conscience, let you know that they wasn't right. They wasn't right. What was the man at? Why y'all trying to catch him up? It says, what did they do? Went out one by one, beginning at the eldest. Look at the elders. Shame on you, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. It was just those two now. And when Jesus had lifted up himself, he saw none but the woman, because remember, they all left. He said to her, woman, where are those your accusers? Have no man condemned you? Like, oh, wait, wasn't it 2 or 3 witnesses? Nobody condemned you? Nobody put you to death? So look, she said, no man, Lord. And Jesus said to her, neither do I condemn thee. Go and what? Sin no more. Go and sin no more. Do not go and break the law no more. So more than likely, this woman was guilty. She was definitely guilty of the crime, but by law, she could have been physically condemned to death at all. So when you hear people say, he that's without sin, let him cast the first stone, you now know that it has absolutely nothing to do with saying things like, oh, well, you know, I'm sinning and you sinning too. You can't throw no rock at me because you got to throw it at you. Or you talking about me, but what about you? You can't judge me. That's not what that means. So when you understand what we call the Old Testament, when you understand the things that were written aforetime, you understand the things that was written for our learning, and that we through patience of the comfort of the scriptures might have hope. You go and learn what we call today the Old Testament, or for my people Torah Navin Ketuvim, the law, the prophet, and the writings. When you read these stories, you learn and understand things a lot better in what you call the New Testament. For example, this is the original King James Version Bible, authorized to be translated in year 1611. All right, in between what you call Old and New Testament. Notice the Old Testament is real thick. You all skip over that and go straight to the thinnest part of the book. Think about this, and this is things I've been teaching for 10 years basically. Those who've been following me know this. I did a video called Law versus Grace, Christianity Exposed, maybe 10 years ago, almost 10 years, something like that. But one of the things I talked about was, if this was a movie, right, and you skipped over all of this and watched this half, well, it's not even half, but this last little bit of the movie, this is less than a quarter of the movie. Could you understand the entire movie? No. So why would you go here and start here when the things here is based off here? But your pastor haven't told and taught you that though. You might want to watch my Law versus Grace Christianity Exposed on my old YouTube channel. What I'll do is I'll put the link to the video in the description. Matter of fact, let me make sure right now that I do this, guys. Let me go to it real quick. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you call today Old Testament, man called it Old Testament. Man called it New Testament. So, let me show you guys something. In your King James Version Bibles, ladies and gents, this is a piece of paper, all right? And that piece of paper says the New Testament. The New Testament. But is that the New Testament? Because this says the New Testament? Guys, this was a piece of paper. This was not written by any prophet, any scribe, any follower of Christ. This is just a piece of paper. There are no such things as books being called Old Testament. There's no such things as books being called New Testament. Neither one. Neither one of these things, guys. So today you have people say, oh, well, you know, we don't read the Old Testament. We don't read the New Testament. I want to show you something. So in case you did not know, all right, in case you didn't know, I want to show you something. All right, let me share my screen again. What we do, this is the video I'm going to share with you all right? This video was done back in 2015, all right? 2015, as you see down there. Law versus Grace Christianity Exposed, ladies and gents. I did a little series. This was part 2, all right? And part 2, I decided to go over Law versus Grace when people say, oh, we on the Old Testament, you ain't the New Testament. And, you know, the scriptures that they like to use, they like to go to Paul's letters and twist Paul's letters. But that was one of the times I had talked about this, ladies and gents. Let me see, hold on 1 second.
After the order of Melchizedek and not be called after the order of Aaron. So, in other words, what would be the need of Christ? Because Christ, is he not the priest under the order of Melchizedek? You ask most Christians, what's the order of Melchizedek? Explain the difference between the order of Aaron, which is the Levitical priesthood. What's the difference between that and the order of Melchizedek, which is the unchangeable priesthood? They don't really know.
And they still don't really know. This is one reason why you hear them say, oh, is that the Old Testament? Or is that the New Testament? Anytime you hear a man say that or a woman say that, are you reading out the Old Testament or at the New Testament? They don't understand the Bible. They don't understand the difference in the changes of the priesthoods. They don't understand that. Then when you ask them, well, what's the New Testament? You know, from Matthew to Revelation. Show me in the Bible where it says that Matthew to Revelation is the New Testament. Show me in Genesis to Malachi that it says that that's the Old Testament. Well, you know, I show me. You talking, you not showing though. Well, see, when Jesus came in the flesh, that was the New Testament. Well, what about Genesis, the 18th chapter? Christ came and saw Abraham in the flesh. How do we know that? One key is because in John, the 8th chapter, when you read 54 on down, he confirmed that that was Abraham. He rejoiced to see me in my day. He saw it and was glad. And said, before Abraham was, I am. Confirming that that was him talking to Abraham. Christ always been here. So there ain't no books called Old Testament and books called New Testament until man starts saying that. Now there is a such thing as what you call Old Testament, New Testament, or Old Covenant, New Covenant, but it's not books. And guess what, ladies and gents? If you watch this video, you will learn exactly what I'm talking about. The video is long, as you see down there, 6.5 hours basically of me freestyling that lesson. I had been into the truth because I came into the knowledge of all this 2012. I'm 3 years in, going hard. Man. And I thank the Most High that I never lost that zeal. All praise to the Most High for that. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know the difference between what you call Old Testament, New Testament talk, right? Watch that video. Also, you learn about what's called the Council of Laodicea, ladies and gents. The Council of Laodicea. It's happened around 363 AD. They came up with 60 laws called, 60 rules, which you know is canon. What does canon mean? I'll show you something. Galatians chapter 6 and verse 16. It says, and as many as walk according to this rule, peace be upon them and mercy upon the Israel of God. So it says canon. All right, canon. That's the word for rule. Let's click on that real quick.
Strong's G 2583 canon. Canon.
That's what we called it, a canon. And look at what it is. A rule. Look at that. Canon. See that? A standard. All right. A boundary. This is a measurement stick, a line, a rule where you draw the line at. All right. It's a measuring rod, meaning a measurement stick. All right. So that being said, ladies and gents, when you look here, rule 1 or canon 1. All right. They came up with rules. Make this bigger. When you scroll down to canon or rule 60, this is just one of them. This is one of the councils. All right. When you learn about a lot of the major councils that happened, dealing with church fathers, etc., things that was happening dealing with different councils, y'all already know about the Council of Nicaea, of course. This is a good book here if you want to learn about the things that happened back then. All right. You already know about the Council of Nicaea, 325 AD, and I might have to do a little short documentary on this one day as well, because a lot of people lie about the Council of Nicaea too. Jesus was invented at the Council of Nicaea. Stop it. They were arguing over the divinity of Christ. All right. Close to 300 bishops, 318 bishops came together, and they were arguing. It was, man, that's a whole nother time. I don't want to go into that topic though. But you know about Aris from Alexandria. You already know what I'm talking about. I'll probably do a lesson on that too. So, Canon 60. All right, it says this was the law that they came. Look at this. It says this is what they said. These are all the books of the Old Testament appointed to read. Genesis of the world, Exodus, etc. This is what they said and separated the book. All right. This is when they came and said, these are going to be the books for the Old Testament. These are going to be the books of the New Testament. And look at what they got here, guys. 1st and 2nd Esdras. Look at that. 1st and 2nd Esdras. See that? Guess what, guys? 1st Ezra and 2nd Ezra are two books that's in what you call the Apocrypha. You get the original King James Version of the Bible. Check this out. You get the original King James Version of the Bible. And I did a documentary on this too, about the Apocrypha. You have 14 books known as the Apocrypha. Comes from, which means hidden in secret. Let me show you real quick. Oh, Wisdom of Solomon. 1 second, guys. Here we go. It says Apocrypha. Apocrypha is just a title. It means hidden or it means secret, ladies and gents. That's very important because a lot of people don't know that this term Apocrypha means hidden or secret. Many people don't know that that's where the term comes from. Hidden or secret. Apocrypto. That's where that word comes from. That's where it comes from, ladies and gents. 1 Corinthians 2, verse 7, I believe. But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom was God ordained before the world unto our glory. So, ladies and gentlemen, this word here, hidden. This is the Greek word for hidden. All right.
Strong's G 613. Apocrypto. Apocrypto.
That's where you get the word for hidden. And then you have apo, which was one word there. And then krypto. That's where you get apocrypha from, ladies and gentlemen. That's where that word derives from. Hidden or secret, ladies and gents. Now, apocrypha here. When you turn here, the top part right there, I got to highlight it. The word apocrypha, which means what? Hidden or secret. As you see here, right up in there. The word apocrypha, which means hidden or secret. All right. So it says, the apocrypha, which means hidden or secret, is used to distinguish religious writings that are not considered authoritative. Remember, as we were talking about earlier, from those that are the authoritative books are called canonical. All right. So canonical is where you get the word canon from. Then you have deuterocanonical, which is the second canon, if you will. So over time, they start voting books out of what you call today the Bible, because they did not believe them to be divinely inspired. That being said, ladies and gents, going back, I did a video a long time ago that goes into the topic of the Apocrypha, who took it out, why they took it out, and why I myself do not believe that to be that was the right choice, of course, because people who had no authority came and voted these books out. How dare them? But anyway, 1st and 2nd Esdras. Oh wait, that's what I was going to show you. Hold on, wait 1 second. Let me show you. In what we call the Apocrypha. All right. Go back in the Apocrypha. When you turn to the first book of the Apocrypha, 1st Esdras. That's right there in the Apocrypha. 1st Ezra. That's who you know is Ezra. All right. Then after 1st Ezra or Ezra, you have this book here. 2nd Ezra. See the up top at the very top? That's who you know is Ezra or Esdras. So during this time, they classified 1st and 2nd Ezra to be books of the Old Testament. Today is voted out because obviously there were other councils after that. But anyway, it says, and these are the books of the New Testament or Gospels according to Matthew, etc. So guys, understand that men came together to say what was the Old Testament. Men came together and discussed what they called the New Testament. That's why you just see a piece of paper that says the Old Testament or a piece of paper that says the New Testament. But the people who actually wrote the Bible never called it that. Men who had no authority came together and started calling it. Even the term Apocrypha, which means hidden the secret, that was written, that was by the Protestants, if you will. So in short, ladies and gents, let's go back so you all can get some understanding. Men start saying that. And now we see one reason why, because of the Council of Laodicea between 363 to 365 AD. Some people think it would happen as early as 344 AD as well. But men start calling it New Testament. Men start calling the books Old Testament. But according to the Bible, is there such things as books such as Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, etc. called the New Testament? No. Are there books such as Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, etc. called Old Testament? No. That was something that was made up by the so-called church fathers who had no authority, who did not write the Bible, who did not believe that these books were, that they believed the books should be separated. So that's why you say, oh, is that the Old Testament, New Testament? Is Psalms Old Testament, New Testament? Is Matthew's that Old Testament, New Testament? Technically, there's no such thing. Technically. So today you got the church, when they say that's an Old Testament, that's the New Testament, they got y'all thinking, oh well, you know, that's out with the old and in with the new. Out with the old, in with the new. I'm gonna call you back. I'm doing a video. So out with the old, in with the new is what they'll say. So, ladies and gents, now that you know that, and I'm more than likely will do a documentary on this in the future. You have Law versus Grace Christianity Exposed, ladies and gents.
That's Leviticus 18:5. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm just freestyling this. Okay.
I literally was freestyling that lesson too. The last video I did was Adultery in a Man's Heart. That is a really good video. It's a lot of misconceptions that people have about that passage. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 and 28, ladies and gentlemen. So when people say, he that's without sin, let him cast the first stone. Now you know what that actually means, ladies and gents. And last but not least, ProPolyBook.com is Biblical Polygyny is Sin. This is volume 1 of 2. There will be a second volume, Lord's willing, that's coming. It's already finished, but it's in the process of being edited. And once it's edited, then we're going to go ahead and push it forward. You can get it from ProPolyBook.com. It'll take you 2 weeks to get it. If it's a group of you all who watch the videos and you want a discount, the more people, the more discount can be given to you. The only catch is you have to allow me to send it to one location, because it's a lot cheaper for me to do that. It'll be sent to one location. Again, it'll take the turnaround time is about 2 weeks. Sometimes it'll be a little under that. If you make a purchase, sometimes it takes about 2 to 3 business days for your money to clear. And after the 2 or 3 business days after that goes through, then it's about 2 weeks from there. You know what I'm saying? So, but sometimes it just depends. So just look at around 16 days. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, I need you to Yoram Judah to shoot out scripture, shoot out information. Lahitri over. Shalom. See you later. And shalom, ladies and gents.
It's a big production.